Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tracing a really fascinating line through history. We're going to look at how a seemingly simple technological evolution, basically just the way banks send messages to each other, quietly birthed one of the absolute most formidable tools of modern global statecraft. It's this brilliant, kind of hidden story of technology, trust, and ultimate geopolitical leverage. So let's just get right into it.
Right off the bat, you have to ask, how did a system built to replace clunky, outdated communication methods become a superpower's ultimate weapon? I mean, it honestly sounds like the plot of some geopolitical spy thriller, doesn't it? But this isn't fiction at all. This is the absolute reality of our modern global financial architecture. To understand the immense power wielded in international relations today, we don't need to look at missile silos or military bases. We actually just need to look at the exact mechanisms of how money talks.
All right, part one. The dark ages of banking, from telex to SWIFT. Let's dive into this and travel back to the world before 1973. Okay, so before 1973, banks relied on telex. Just imagine trying to conduct high-speed global trade when your primary method of communication is barely a step above a telegram. It was agonizingly slow, highly insecure, and completely unstandardized. Literally every bank had its own unique way of writing things down. It was absolute chaos. Kind of like trying to coordinate millions of dollars in a frantic, paper-strewn 1970s newsroom. Then in 1973, along came SWIFT. Think of SWIFT as the invention of the email system, but exclusively for banks. It introduced a universal language and a highly secure pipe. And just like that, the chaos evaporated and we finally had order.
Moving on to part two, mechanics of a cross-border payment. Time to peel back the onion here.
Now wait, let me stop right here because we need to shatter a massive misconception. Here is the crucial point. SWIFT is not a payment system. I repeat, it does not hold money and it does not settle transactions. No money actually moves through it. It is simply a secure messaging network. SWIFT is just a neutral cooperative, headquartered in Belgium, that passes encrypted notes between banks. So you're probably wondering, if SWIFT doesn't actually move the money, how on earth does a cross-border payment happen?
Well, let's walk through this step by step with a human-scale micro-story. Step 1, initiation. Let's say you want to send $1,000 from your Bank of America account to a friend in Germany who uses Deutsche Bank. You authorize the transfer. Step 2, messaging. Bank of America sends a highly secure SWIFT message, specifically it's called an MT-103 payment order, to Deutsche Bank. It essentially says, hey, pay $1,000 to your customer on our behalf and we will settle our debt with you later. And then we hit step 3, settlement. This is the magic trick right here. The actual movement of money happens on a totally separate layer, often through accounts these banks hold with each other or via a massive central system like Fedwire in the US.
Section 3. Peeling the onion, the hidden settlement layer. Because if SWIFT is just the email, the real power is somewhere else entirely.
Look at the sheer scale of the US dollar here. It is absolutely staggering. It dominates a massive 85 to 90% of all global foreign exchange transactions. If you want to buy oil, grain, or manufactured goods internationally, you are using dollars. And here's the kicker. The final settlement for most of those dollar transactions happens in New York, under U.S. jurisdiction, via the U.S. Federal Reserve. Any bank on earth that wants to deal in dollars absolutely must have a correspondent relationship touching U.S. soil.
And this builds into an astronomical network effect. 11,000. That is the number of financial institutions spread across over 200 countries connected by SWIFT. The true value of SWIFT isn't just the sophisticated tech, it's the fact that absolutely everyone is on it. It's the ultimate global directory of finance. If you're not on it, you practically don't exist.
Part 4. Weaponization, the Death Star of finance. So how does this neutral messaging app become an enforcer?
Enter the Death Star of finance. That's the dramatic, yet honestly highly accurate, nickname often given to the U.S. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC. Because the entire world relies on dollars, and those dollars settle in New York, OFAC possesses unimaginable leverage. If OFAC puts a bank or a country on a sanctions list, they are issuing a very clear ultimatum. If anyone processes a transaction for this entity, you will be cut off from the U.S. financial system. And because absolutely no bank wants to lose access to the dollar, they immediately comply. The targeted bank's access to the global economy literally evaporates instantly.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why the geopolitical events of recent years played out the way they did. When the US and its allies threatened to cut Russian banks off from SWIFT in 2022, it was devastating. But actually, it wasn't devastating just because they lost a messaging app. It was devastating because, practically speaking, losing SWIFT meant losing access to that underlying US dollar settlement system entirely. No international bank would ever dare risk processing a dollar transaction for a blacklisted bank via SWIFT, out of pure fear of drawing the absolute wrath of the Death Star down upon themselves.
Section 5. Building the alternative. This brings us to a real $64,000 question.
If this system grants one nation so much leverage, why haven't international competitors simply built their own upgraded system? Well, it's not a technical problem. It is a problem of trust and geopolitics. First, the switching costs are astronomically high. Second, the network effects are staggering. Think about it. Why would a bank in Brazil or Japan join a new, untested messaging network if all 11,000 of their counterparties are still exclusively using SWIFT? It'd be like joining a brand new social network where you have 0 friends. And third, there is the inescapable dollar problem. Even if you build a perfect, shiny replica of SWIFT, if you are transacting in dollars, that money still has to settle in New York.
Let's look at the actual attempts to bypass this, though. Take Russia's SPFS, created after the initial 2014 sanctions. It works technically, but honestly, it's a pale imitation. It has a tiny volume, mostly domestic reach, and still drastically struggles with dollar transactions. Then there's China's CIPS. Now, this is much more sophisticated because it actually handles settlement for the Chinese Yuan, and it is growing rapidly. But here is the catch. It still largely relies on SWIFT for the cross-border messaging part. As long as the global market strongly demands dollars over yuan, even a sophisticated system like CIPS remains a complementary tool, not a total replacement. What we are really witnessing with systems like CIPS and SPFS is a fascinating concept called financial deterrence. These nations are essentially creating backup systems. They are buying wildly expensive insurance policies to mitigate the existential risk of being suddenly unplugged from the global trade architecture. But as we've seen today, replicating the immense liquidity, the deep legal trust, and that 11,000-member network effect of the dollar-SWIFT alliance, well, it's simply impossible to do overnight.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. Can any nation truly participate in global trade without tethering themselves to the U.S. financial architecture? We've traced the incredible evolution from clunky telex machines in a chaotic era to a seamless, standardized network that quietly underpins immense global power. The architecture is brilliant, the network effect is massive, and the geopolitical leverage is undeniable. I really hope this explainer has given you a powerful new lens through which to view the world of international finance. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep questioning how the hidden mechanics of our world truly operate.